everyone, and welcome to Crossroads Community Church. We are so glad you joined us online, and we would love to have you with us in person on Sunday mornings at 9 or 11 a.m. At Crossroads, we start where you are. Our mission is to see you connect with God through a relationship with Jesus. We pray that even through this video, that God will show you how much He loves you and that you will grow closer to Him. Did you know that we have a Crossroads Community Church app? It's now easier than ever to watch your favorite messages online. Know the latest on what is going on at Crossroads. Get connected to our groups and much more. Just search Crossroads Community Church Yorktown or text Crossroads VA space app to 77977. We are a generous church full of generous people. We believe generosity helps people and changes our community. If you would like to partner with us financially, then you can give online either on our website or using our app. Thank you again for checking us out today, and we hope you enjoy this message from our most recent service.
We're in a series called Double Dog Dare. Been so excited about this series. Been thinking about it for a really long time. And oh, by the way, aren't you guys thankful for the worship team that's up here every weekend? So thankful for them and all of those that are on our team. And just thinking about Marin, she was singing today. She goes back to that ungodly school of UNC tomorrow. So just thinking about her and praying for her through that. You know I couldn't help but do that, Marin. Before we get started, just a couple of things. There's one of the things I wanted you to really think about this year, and a lot of you already have this on your phone, but I would encourage you to put the app on your phone. That's a way for you to, like in this moment right now, follow along with what we're doing today. You can fill in your notes and see the scripture that's there that we're using. So that's one way that you can do that today. Other things that you can use on your app it will help you stay up with events and things that are going on, help you give. You can set up your giving so that it's done, like a one-time gift, or you can set it up so it's recurring. It's kind of one of the automated things. That's how our family does it. It automates it so that we don't have to think about it. It just happens automatically for us. Because we just believe that you automate the things that are important, and so we want to automate that as well in our life. But I want to point you to in our events area of our app, there is one little section there. It's at the very top. It says 21 Days of Prayer. And so we're committing as a church, before we even kind of move past January, before we start doing anything together, we want to kind of bathe this whole year, 2019, in prayer. And so we'd ask you to join us in that. One of the ways that you can do that is picking up a guide as you go out there at the Welcome Center desk, or if you want to do it more like with your technology, we're willing to send you a text message every day, just one text message that has an idea of what you can pray for that day, so that we're all praying the same things together. So if you'd like to do that, under the events, just click on 21 Days of Prayer there, and then it says sign up for text alerts, and that gives us kind of the permission to start sending you a text every day for the next 21 days with that. So I would ask you to do that right now if you'd like to do that, or if you just would rather have a physical paper, you can grab that as you go out the doors this morning at the welcome desk. So this Christmas, I tried something completely different than I've ever done before. I started walking with, and I've done that before, but I started walking with wireless earbuds. Have any of you ever tried those before? So I have a pair of earbuds that I got when I got my phone a couple years ago. And this, for some reason, I don't know if it's an issue with the phone or the earbuds or what it is, but every time I plug it in, they unplug several times. So within 30 minutes, I'll have it in my pocket or I'm holding onto it, and it just slides out just enough in the port that it cuts the music off, and you have to stop what you're doing and pull it out, plug it back in, and then hit play because it pauses it all the time. Anybody else have issues with this, or just me? So I don't know if it's a port issue or if it's an earbud issue, but I'm having issues with that. So I tried something completely different, and I went wireless. My son has a pair of wireless earbuds, and I asked him if I could use them. And I tried them, and I actually purchased a pair last night so that when I go running or jogging, I can just put those in my ear and just go. Really cool. Kind of one of those things that just kind of transformed my exercise schedule. But I got thinking as I was using them how far things have come over the course of the last 15 or 20 years. I was thinking back to, there was this thing that people used to use called an 8-track. Any of you ever heard of that before? So it's probably, some of you are like, I don't even know what that is. But it was this thing that you would put into your car or into an 8-track player, and it would play music for you. And then we took the next step, and we started using cassette tapes. These are real things. Anybody know what a cassette tape is? Still not there with some of you. These are real things. Google it. I promise you they're real. And so we had cassette tapes, and we would use the cassette tapes. And then sometimes the cassette tape would rip. I don't know if you remember that, or would tear, or would come all the way out and it would tear. And so you would do surgery on the cassette tape. You would take a few moments, get you a piece of tape, right? You would fix it, kind of put the two pieces back together, run a tape over it, and then you would stick your finger, or even better, a pencil into cassette tape, and you would twist it until everything got back in its place, and then you could play the cassette tape again in your Walkman that you had, except, everything would play good until it got to that one little part, right? And then it would be like, blah, 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 and then it would go back to the words of the song again. And then we started using, CDs, and I can remember running with a CD player in my pocket, this big clunky CD player in my pocket, and the CD skipping the whole time that I'm running. And your pants are getting weighed down, so you're like holding your pants up with one arm and running down the road, with the other. You guys remember this, right? And then things started to kind of get transformed with the iPod, and then then we started using phones, and now we can have a watch. You can just run with your watch on, and it can be hooked up to your wireless earbuds, and you can just take off and run. And things have changed so quickly, and we upgrade all of these things so often. We upgrade our phones, we upgrade our lives, we upgrade our homes, our cars, we upgrade all these things in our life. But there's this one area of our life where we're not as willing to kind of upgrade or to push ourselves because we know it's too difficult. We're just kind of satisfied with, we're not worried about getting stronger or deeper or any of those things, and it's our relationship with God. And I've often wondered why we're willing to, and we want to make things better all the time. We want to have the best of this and the best of that, and get the next upgrade to the next phone. But when it comes to our spiritual life, when it comes to our relationship with God, we're just satisfied with the way things are. In fact, we can go years. We can have a relationship with God for a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or beyond, and we can look back at that and say, you know what, over the course of those years, I've never really grown in that relationship that I have with God. And, I think the reason why it's that way is because we don't want to push. We know that it takes work. It's going to take, we're going to have to do something, work hard to get at it, because we know that it's discipline, that it doesn't happen by accident, that we have to really do something. You ask somebody, how did you get so healthy, right? How did you get so fit? Have you ever asked somebody that? Somebody that's really physically fit, you say, how did you get so fit? Well, they're not going to sit there and say, I don't know. They're going to start telling you about the nutritional plans that they're doing, the exercise that they're doing. They're going to tell you about the times when they had to push through holidays when everybody else was fisting cookies. They were like, well, I can't do that. I'll have one cookie. They're going to tell you about how they had to push hard. Nobody that's physically fit is going to tell you, I was getting ready to get in the shower. I was all flumpy and grumpy and bloated, and then I took a shower and I came out and I was fit. It doesn't happen that way. You'd like to take a shower at their house, though, wouldn't you? I wish it happened that way. Or, they're not going to say at night, in the evenings, I like to, here's how I got so fit. Every night I just kind of sit down, I have this bowl of ice cream, and I pour chocolate syrup on it and caramel, and I put M&Ms in it, and then I take a Pop-Tart and crush it up on top of it, and then I eat it, and every time I eat it, I get more and more healthy. I get more and more fit. My biceps grow every time I eat like that. And it doesn't happen that way. You know that you have to push, you have to work hard, you have to do things that are difficult, and yet we're willing to do all those things in other areas of our life, but yet when it comes to our relationship with God, we don't want to push, we don't want to work hard, we don't want to do the things that have to be done in order to grow. And so what this series is really about is kind of taking some dares. Over the next 4 weeks, we want to give you 4 different dares that if you'll push them, if you'll push through it, if you'll take the dare, these things will really change your life, and it will make 2019 a fantastic life for you. So let's get to the dare today, double dog dare. Okay, here's the dare for today, and it's a tough one. Okay, it's not going to be easy, so get ready. most of you are going to groan when I say this, but here's the dare. I double dog dare you to live life like it's not about you. I double dog dare you to live your life like it's not about you. That's not easy, is it? I mean, our tendency is to think about ourselves. It's my life. It's my decisions. It's I got to take care of number one. I got to take this season and get myself together, and then I can do such and such. We're constantly thinking about ourselves. In fact, wouldn't you agree that the majority of our New Year's resolutions are about ourselves? And yet, this is not the purpose of our life. This is not what God's called us to do. And I'm not saying those things are necessarily bad, but the reality is that you were created for a reason. There's a purpose in your life. There's a purpose that you were created, and I would challenge you to figure out that purpose. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. And this is gonna help a lot of you. You want to know why you were created? You want to know what your purpose is? Your purpose is to love God and love your neighbor. To love God, to love others. To love God and to love others. Go to the great commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. You think, man, I've been trying to figure out what my purpose is for 30 years. There it is. I just laid it right out in front of you. Here's the purpose of your life: to love God, to love others. That's it. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to look at this verse, Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. I'm going to use this verse a lot over the course of the next this next year in 2019. You'll probably hear it so many times, but let's look at this verse together. And I think if we could get a hold of this verse, right? Like if we could really internalize this verse and make this a part of who we are, that we begin to realize that the world doesn't revolve around us, that it's not about us, it's about others, it's about God and others. If we can get a hold of this, I think it can change our life. It'll be a great year for you. In fact, let me just help us get set here for a moment. Why don't you just say out loud for a moment? I'll count to 3. Why don't you say out loud, it's not about me, okay? 1, 2, 3, go ahead. Now, that was good. I think we can do better, because now I'm going to tell you to tell the person beside you, tell them it's not about you, okay? Okay? Now, I don't know why you're continuing to talk. You must be telling them now why it's not about. I told you it wasn't about you, and I don't know, you're telling them everything about it. It's not about us. You see, I don't have as much of an issue saying it's not about. I mean, it's hard for me to say it's not about me. It's easy for me to say it's not about you. But here's a verse. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Seek first whose kingdom? His kingdom, not my kingdom. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So grab your Bible. We're going to look at Luke chapter 14. It's on your worship guide. You can have, if you have a Bible with you, if you have the app with you, or just pull up a Bible app on your phone, and let's look at Luke chapter 14 together, and let's just kind of look at how can we begin to live outside of ourselves. How can we begin to live our life like it's about God and others and not ourselves? How do we actually do this? How do we actually live it out that life is not about me? Well, let's look at what Jesus did in Luke chapter 14. Now, kind of the setup of this is that this is a party, and Jesus was invited to a party. And this party was, there was a purpose behind the party. And the religious leaders were throwing this party, and the purpose of this party was to trick Jesus. As if you can do that, but that was what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to trick Jesus. And so they said, let's invite Jesus to the party, and then let's invite this man who has this disease to the party. And this disease is called dropsy, and it's just it's a disease where your body fills with fluid and begins to sag in different places, and you're like, I think I have dropsy. Anybody think they have dropsy? I think I have dropsy. So they said, let's invite this man to the party. Let's invite Jesus to the party. And if we invite these two people together, Jesus is going to see this man, and he's going to heal him. We just know he's going to heal him. Which, the issue with it, the trick was that this was the Sabbath, and you weren't supposed to heal on the Sabbath. This whole thing just really aggravates me a little bit, because it aggravates me that the religious people, the religious leaders who were throwing this party, believed that Jesus could do the miracle because they invited the man to come there. They believed that Jesus could do the miracle. They just didn't think that Jesus should do the miracle on the Sabbath day. Doesn't this seem like a stupid thing to you? I mean, somewhere in the Bible, it's got to say religious people are stupid, because this is a stupid thing, okay? This is a really stupid thing that's going on here. And so they invite Jesus, they invite this man, and Jesus heals him. Jesus heals him. And then, of course, the whole place goes crazy. You know, the religious leaders are all over Jesus about it. And Jesus is like, listen to me. If you had an ox and you were walking him today and he fell in a ditch, would you not get the ox out of the ditch? Isn't this man way more important than the ox that fell in the ditch? And that's how Jesus approached it. So this is in Luke chapter 14. And he begins to kind of talk it up a little bit more, because now he's about to go. Now that he's got their attention, he's about to get really, kind of scandalous with them as religious leaders. So he says in verse 12, then Jesus said to his host, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. So in other words, Jesus is looking, he's saying, kind of look around the room here. Look at the people that you've invited to the party. Everybody looks the same. Everybody's religious. Everybody kind of acts the same way and believes the same thing. Look at all the people that you've invited to the party. How about we invite some people to the party that don't look like us? How about we invite some party that don't believe necessarily what we believe? How about we invite some people to the party that are different? How about we invite the lame and the broken and the blind? Let's invite some of those to the party. In verse 13, he says that. He says, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. And you know that their jaws dropped in this moment, because when people had these kinds of issues, poor, crippled, lame, blind, when people had these kinds of issues, to religious people, it was a spiritual issue. It was an issue that was going on with them, that there was some kind of punishment from God, that there was something spiritual going on in their life, and that's the reason why they were poor or blind or crippled or lame, and so they didn't associate with people like that. And so this is really scandalous for the day. Jesus is saying, when you throw a party, don't invite your rich neighbors, invite the crippled and the poor and the lame and the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. And I think that this is a good picture of our life. I think that that we need to recognize in our life that a lot of times we spend time with people who are just like us, and we're not focused on people who are broken, people who are hurting. And the reality is that from being in the church world, if you've been in any church in your life, and I hope that this church has been different for you, that we are a group of people who are broken, right? I mean, is there anybody in the room besides the pastor standing up here that has brokenness in their life right now? Like I have stuff going on in my life that our family is broken, and in a lot of churches, these are things that you cover up. These are things that you hide. That we kind of look at things like these are. You don't allow these things to come out of yourself, because then people will look at you like you've got some kind of horrible spiritual condition, and that there's something really, really wrong with you. And so we just kind of hide these things, when in reality, the churches that I grew up in, everybody had these issues, just nobody talked about them, right? Everybody had brokenness in their life, just nobody spent time talking about that brokenness. And what I realized over my life and kind of in my growing as a person is that I can't look at other people as the bad guy and me as a religious person as a good guy. We're all, no matter who we are, we're all rescued guys, right? And the bad guys aren't bad guys. Bad guys are lost guys, are dead guys that need Jesus Christ. That's how we need to look at it. And so we open our homes to that. We open our church to that kind of brokenness, because we want to start where people are in our lives and in our church. So we want to begin to think like Jesus. That's the first one. We want to begin to think like Jesus. And that's how we do it. We begin to think like him. We begin to see people in their brokenness and say, these are the people that I need to invite into my life. Not my rich neighbors all the time, not always my relatives. There's nothing wrong with those things, but I need to open up my life to people who are broken. I need to think like Jesus. And we begin to think like Jesus, then we get outside of ourselves. It's not all about me anymore. It's about others. Number 2, we need to celebrate like Jesus. We need to celebrate like Jesus. So my daughter and I, she loves music, and so she's a senior this year in high school, and so I've been trying to take as much time with her. So she really likes music. So we've been kind of doing this concert tour. So we've been going to all these different concerts, and she's been, she'll let me know what the next concert is, and then I'll have to save some money up to make that happen. But so we've been to Adele, which was an awesome concert, really great concert. We saw Sam Smith, he was okay. He was all right. Not my cup of tea, but he was good. Cam, when we were at Sam Smith, I posted a picture on Facebook of me sitting there with earbuds in my ears, like watching The Office on my phone. That was just a joke. I really wasn't doing that. I was hanging out with her. Cam, anybody know who Cam is? Yeah, so she's a country singer. Some of you like country, right? Shoot your dog and die in your truck and all that stuff that country people sing about. We went on the American Idol. We went on the American Idol tour. There was like 50 people there. It was cool. That's where you have like 10 people, like the top 10 people all come together and sing again. We did that. And then recently we saw Lauren Daigle, which was a fantastic concert. We went there in November and watched that. What's interesting to me is when we start to go to those kinds of concerts is that everybody in the room, no matter if you're kind of an introvert or extrovert or whoever you are, when you get into those concert situations, everybody like unleashes, right? Like everybody releases all of that stuff. It's like, here's the person that never talks, is shy, won't have a conversation with somebody, keeps to themselves, and you see them in the concert, they're like, ah, woo, And I kept thinking about how that happens, and it's like we're so willing to celebrate. Like, you watch football games, like, man, people have been talking to me all day about the Cowboys, but I've been hearing over and over about the Cowboys today. People, oh, there's a jersey back there. Shame. Who let her in here? The crippled and the poor and the lame, right over there. Just kidding. Just kidding. She's broken. You're welcome here. Start where you are. So you'll watch games. You'll see the big game in colleges tomorrow night. Like they'll storm the field, man. Any Alabama people in here? Yeah. Any Clemson people? Come on, we got some Clemson people. But so you guys are screaming out. You're like, woo! Like yeah. We get to the worship and everyone's like, you know what I'm saying? Like we have all this incredible stuff to celebrate. Like to celebrate the fact that, why are we going to let the world out celebrate us when we have such a great thing to celebrate? I mean, we are rescued, we are saved, we've been shown grace and forgiveness, and we have a place in heaven, and we have a God who says, I'll never leave you or forsake you, and you have the Holy Spirit. Like we have all of these incredible gifts, and yet the world out celebrates us every day. 3,000 churches close their doors every single year. Churches that aren't, focused on the broken, who aren't sharing the gospel, who are inward focused, we cannot let the world out celebrate us. In Crossroads, we're not going to let that happen, for sure. But when we begin to celebrate, when we begin to say, see what God has done, when we begin to see in the small things that how blessed we are, how much God has done for us, we begin to be like Jesus and begin to get outside of ourselves and say, thank you, God. I love you for that. Thank you for giving me that. Thank you for rescuing me here, God. Thank you for showing me grace again. We get outside of ourselves, even when our lives are completely crazy. Number 3, we need to focus like Jesus. We need to focus like Jesus. So there's this great banquet. Again, this celebration. This isn't a small deal. This isn't an hour get together. Like this is a 7 to 9 hour banquet that's been set up, And so they're going to celebrate in this moment. In verse 17, we begin to see the focus of Jesus kind of zero in this moment. He says in verse 17, at the time of the banquet, he sent his servants to tell those who had been invited, come, for everything is now ready. Now, there's a word in that verse that we probably don't like. It says, at the time of the banquet, he sent his servant. See, I don't think I like being called a servant. It's exactly what we are. That's why we have to realize that we are a servant of the Most High God. And what a servant does is a servant does what the master tells the servant to do. And the master is saying, the banquet giver is saying, go out, servant, go out and invite, and tell the people that everything is now ready. And it says, then they began to make all kinds of excuses. Now, that happens, right? There's this incredible truth of who God is and what he's done for us. We begin to realize that we want to be like him and grow, and we can take all these steps to be like him, and then we begin to give all of our excuses. Verse 18, it says, the first excuse, he says, but they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, I just bought a field, and I must go and see it. Please excuse me. So I don't think anybody in the room here would buy a field, piece of property, without going and looking at it first, so that gives an excuse. Verse 19, another said, I've just bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm on the way to try them out. Please excuse me. Anybody buy 5 oxen this week? You wouldn't buy 5 oxen without checking them out, right? And still another said in verse 20, I just got married, so I can't come. He's probably right. That's probably the most valid excuse of the 3, right? He's not allowed to go. He can't go. So make all these excuses, and again, all these excuses are related to all the same things we give excuses for: money, work, recreation, relationships. It's like, I have all these things going on. I don't have time to push. I don't have time to do the work. I don't have time to have the discipline to grow in my relationship with him, to live my life for others, and to live my life for God. I don't have time to do that because I just bought a field, I got to go get it. I got to go get some oxen, I just got married. We just had a baby. I can't do these things. But servants do what the master asks them to do. And we have a loving God who tells us that our role is to love him. As a servant, our job is to love him and to love others. And that's what we're supposed to do. Focus like Jesus. Number 4, pursue like Jesus. Pursue like Jesus. So I've shared this before, but whenever I think of the word pursue, I think about my wife. I remember when we were dating in high school, and so we started dating in the 10th, 11th grade time, and she was pursuing me, and so I just kind of held her off like on a string and did whatever I wanted to do, right? Because I knew she liked me, so that gave me the freedom to kind of spend time with other people, go on dates with other people, because she'd always be pursuing me in this way. And so when I realized, or I heard, that there was this guy at our school that was asking her out on a date, I remember completely freaking out, because everything inside of me, all the jealousy, all the pursuit, all of that, like this person that I've been kind of hanging on this string over here, I was going to go after her with everything inside of me. And I went home that day. You couldn't call anybody on the cell phone or anything. I went home and I dialed her number, 642-5730, and I called her and I said, Heather, I want to go on a date with you this weekend. And I knew the other guy had already asked her on a date for that weekend. I said, I want to go on a date with you this weekend. And she said, okay. And I said, are you going on a date with somebody else? And she said, no. And I said, well, I don't want you to go on a date with anybody else. I want to date you only, and I want you to date me only. Does that sound good? And she's like, that's all I've ever wanted. And I've never stopped pursuing her since that moment. I've told her 1,000 times, if she leaves, I'm going with her, so she's not going anywhere. And I know, she's a beautiful woman inside and out. And I'm going to go after her with everything inside of me. I'm going to pursue her with everything inside of me. And so I see this idea here when it talks about pursuing. You'll see here in a minute in verse 21. It says, the servant came back and reported to the master. Then the owner of the house became angry because nobody was coming to the party. And he ordered his servant, go out quickly. Quickly. There's urgency here. Go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and bring in the poor and the crippled and the blind and the lame. Sir, the servant said, what you ordered has already been done, and there's still room. Then the master told his servant, go out to the roads and country lanes and what? I love this word. Compel them to come in. Compel them to come in so that my house may be full. There's this urgency here of recognizing that really our time on this earth is short. We don't have a lot of time, and we need to be going at this thing 100% all the time. Like, there's no time to sit around and take a break. There's no time for us to think about ourselves. Like, we need to be going at it 100% because it is going quickly, and we need to compel people about this relationship with Jesus Christ. Go quickly and compel them. Compel them. Think about the position that you're in. Think about the position that you're in at work, for example. Can you recognize for a moment that God has placed you there for a purpose? Will you compel the people? Will you go quickly into that situation and compel the people that are there about a relationship? However you can, whether you can speak it or you have to live it, however you can do it, you're going to compel them. When you think about the neighborhood that God has placed you in, are you going to just be satisfied to say, you know what, hey, buddy, as you kind of pull out of your driveway? Or are you going to go quickly and compel people about a relationship with Jesus Christ? We're going to recognize that the place that God is, you might have searched online and you may have talked to a realtor, but God placed you in your neighborhood for a purpose and for a reason. He placed you in your job for a reason. He placed your kids in the classrooms that they're in for a reason. Can you go into the school and say to the teacher, listen, what do you need? How can I help you? What can our family do to support you? And compel them. Live your life for others. Live your life for God and live your life for others. Can we recognize that God places us in places, whether it's a field trip? I mean, I remember sitting on sports teams with my kids when they were little and sitting in the bleachers with the same parent week after week